Diddy's in a lot of trouble. After a string of lawsuits, his home was raided.
Raided mansions on both coasts.
His sons were detained in a lawsuit alleging everything from illegal drugs to sex trafficking. In this video, we're gonna go over the 73-page lawsuit and see why people like Young Miami, Cuba Gooding Jr., Meek Mill, and Stevie J might be under fire too.
P. Diddy be wanting the body.
And you gotta tell him no.
Alright, so here is the 73-page lawsuit. I was able to get my hands on it, and we are gonna dive all the way in this page by page, and I'm gonna break it down for y'all all the way. But first, I want to talk about the background on this raid. So on Monday, Diddy's house was raided, and from my understanding, both his Miami and LA house was raided. Now, why was it raided? It was raided because of this lawsuit, right? And I'm gonna say not even just this lawsuit, but all the other lawsuits that have kind of been coming out against Diddy since Cassie kind of started that domino effect. Now, the initial question that I had when I seen that the feds had raided him was, in what cases do the feds pick up lawsuits? If a serious enough crime is being alleged, then that's cause enough for the feds to pick the case up. Outside of that, like we say here, if there's any evidence the suspect crossed state lines and furthers of this crime, that alone can bring the case under federal jurisdiction. That right there might bite Young Miami, but we're going to get into that in the remainder of this video. So we know already in this lawsuit that sex trafficking, drug use, private jets, all that is all in play here. So those are honestly crossing state lines with the private jets. Sex trafficking is huge as far as the feds and Homeland Security. Another thing that's huge is fentanyl, right? Why and how we get to Diddy's house being raided. Now, everything in this lawsuit, once again, is pretty serious. The thing with me, the part of it that I still struggle with, and I feel like many people are jumping the gun on, is right now, from our understanding, this lawsuit hasn't even been settled itself. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but right now these are all allegations. But what makes me feel like they're more than allegations, a little nugget for y'all that want to do real research, .gov.org are the credible sources, right? These are actual credible sources. Fewer than 1% of federal criminal defendants were acquitted in 2022. Now that's 2 years ago, but that's a 99% conviction rate. Meaning, the old saying about what people say about the feds is true, I guess. When they coming for you, that means they've got you. So whatever evidence is in this lawsuit, from my understanding, is being viewed as substantial enough to kind of do like a military style raid on Diddy's house. Now, as you can see here, this is the aftermath of his house. They completely tore bro house up. They went all inside the teddy bear, bro. That's crazy. All in the safe, everything. So that means they believe that there is further evidence to prove this stuff there. Now, if you've seen this lawsuit, then if the stuff is in here is real, then I would think that's enough evidence right there. But I guess it's never enough with the feds. The next thing I want to talk about and address, flights. Diddy's flight situation. Now, when these raids are happening, shortly after we're starting to get the news, it hits everywhere that Diddy has flown to another country. And not only has he flown to another country, he's flown to a country that does not extradite to the US. So in some cases, sometimes political, sometimes just an agreement between two countries, they don't expedite, right? So a recent person we seen get expedited is El Chapo. He got expedited from Mexico to the United States. And so expediting is pretty much when you're wanted for a crime in another country, the other country sending you over there to them. So anyway, that was seen as very important. But after that, this video surfaced of Diddy kind of pacing around, looking real sketchy. He kind of looks like, okay, my life is pretty much over. Now, this is also important, right? This is also important that we read, because it says Diddy seen on video pacing around Miami airport after raids at both homes. However, Diddy, wearing the same exact thing from that video, is supposedly confronted by the feds 2 hours prior to these raids. A guy they're alleging to be his drug mule actually who got arrested, which is also weird, because if Diddy is the one that they're after why not grab them when you have them right there? Now, that's important because this guy is name dropped in the lawsuit that we're about to go over. But a lot of people were speculating, well, how do we know his jet was really traveling to those locations? I want to show y'all something. So, whether you know it or not, every single flight in the world is being tracked, right? Don't matter if it's a private jet, public jet, helicopter. As you can see, this is every flight happening all across the world. Now, you might look at this and say, well, how do you know which one is P. Diddy's plane? Well, there's several ways. We're not going to use P. Diddy because that's going to be like publicly available right now. Let's go Floyd Mayweather. Boom. So just off of this number right here, you can track Floyd's plane right here. Now, of course, I don't pay for this site, but that's literally how you do it. So you can literally see anybody's flights, really when they're landing and when they're going all the time. But let's hop over into this lawsuit, right? So I'm not gonna bore you with no details. The names that are important is of course Sean Combs, Justin Combs, because a lot of people felt bad that the sons were detained, but he's at least being listed in this lawsuit along with a lot of other people: Love Records, Motown Records, Universal, Combs Global Enterprises, ABC corporations. This guy is going after everybody. So this is the first important part. From September 2022 to the date of this filings, defendants have consistently and purposely availed themselves of the privilege of conducting activities within New York, thus invoking the benefits and protection of New York law. So this pretty much saying, look, this is based out of New York, so this is where this is gonna play out, right? So the party is Rodney Jones. Now, who the hell is Rodney Jones? I don't think this is him, but oh yeah, this is him. Bad Boy ENT, Love Records. Let's see if his comments are turned off. I'm gonna assume this is him. Either way, this is the gentleman who is doing the lawsuit, and of course the defendant, Sean Combs, all his stage names and then his background. Here's a picture of him. They're listing out the defendants: Justin Combs, Lucian Grange. He's the CEO of Universal. I wonder what he has to do with this. Ethiopia, however you say her last name. And then Christina Korheim, they call her KK. She's allegedly the Maxwell of this case, of Diddy's operation, and then all these labels and companies that he's suing as well. So I ain't gonna lie, at first I thought this was an indictment, and I was gonna say this paperwork is fake because why would they refer to it like that? But this is just a lawsuit. He's from Chicago. He grew up playing instruments. He started playing drums in church. He started to play the guitar. So he's pretty much a child prodigy in music. His talents had led him to produce and create a commercial marketplace for music that has been recorded by some of the most prestigious, blah, blah, blah. He's done all this good work, and here we go. This is the most important part of all of this. On or about August 2022, Mr. Jones received a call from Mr. Combs requesting that he produce several songs on a rhythm and blues album titled The Love Album Off the Grid. All right. So let's see if that album exists. Okay, it does. That album does exist. I like to kind of like fact check or whatever. But anyway, he's saying his life has been detrimentally impacted ever since. So from September to November 23, he produced 9 songs for Diddy, and he lived with Diddy for months at a time. So one thing I'm seeing common in all these sorts of stories, the Nickelodeon stories, all the R. Kelly stories, is when these people start living with these people. I mean, on one hand, I get it. If you hungry, you trying to come up in the game, Diddy calls you, and you got to kind of go live with him to produce or whatever you got to do. That's cool, but I just feel like you could also be like, hey, bro, I'll just, even if it's a cheap hotel, I just, I need my space, bro. I need, But hey, granted, I've never been in this situation, but anyway, he stayed at his LA house, his New York City house, and his Miami house. He spent several weeks on a yacht rented by Mr. Combs in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, that's important simply because I'm not sure if y'all are aware, but in billionaire culture, There's I'd say it's an urban myth right now because I don't think there's any proof that none of these actually have happened. But supposedly there's a lot of weird stuff going on these yachts, especially in parts of the ocean that are that like there's parts of the ocean that aren't under any country's jurisdiction. So literally it's lawless. There's no body to say, hey, this, you did this or whatnot. So that's why that's important. Throughout this time with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones witnessed, experienced, and endured many things that went far beyond his role as a producer on the Love album. The claims raised in his complaint have been corroborated through witness statements. Wow, witness statements. Okay, video, audio recordings, and images that Mr. Jones has in his possession. So that's pretty powerful by itself because there are other people saying that they're a witness to this and that they've seen or heard this, and he's saying he's got audio, video recordings, and images that Mr. Jones has in his possession. So more than likely what that raid was about was to go see if they can find some more stuff maybe on Diddy's devices or whatnot, because even right now, the way I think, where there's smoke, there's fire for sure, but that's not enough to just flat out say that he did that, because one thing we also know that happens to powerful black men a lot of the times, or at least sometimes, is that sometimes people get together to lie on them to try to bring them down. You never know what this really is. But this guy is saying he's got a lot of stuff and it's supposedly in this, so we're going to get to that. Mr. Combs, Diddy required Mr. Jones to record him constantly on several occasions. Mr. Combs took Mr. Jones' cell phone and began recording himself. As a result, Mr. Jones has secured hundreds of hours of footage and audio recordings of Mr. Combs, his staff, and his guests engaging in illegal activity. My question is that what he's claiming, or have y'all seen it yourselves? I'm gonna assume number two, but you never know. He has secured irrefutable evidence of the acquisition, use, and distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, GHB. What the hell is GHB? Gamma hox. Okay, some other crazy stuff. Ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms. The displaying and distribution of unregistered illegal firearms. Wow, Diddy moving like that. Mr. Combs providing laced alcohol beverages to minors and sex workers at his homes in California, New York. And they're saying he's got irrefutable evidence of this. Wow. I'd like to see it, but hey. Mr. Combs' chief of staff, we're going to call her KK, instructing her staff to retrieve drugs so she can provide it to Mr. Combs for his consumption. Christian Combs, right? Now, remember, we was asking, why is the son in cuffs? And for the record, he wasn't arrested. He was just detained while the search was going on, but they allege that they have evidence of him drugging and sexually assaulting a woman. Wow. Mr. Combs detailing how he planned to leverage his relationship with T.D. Jakes. Wow. To soften the impact of his public image of Cassie Ventura's lawsuit. Wow. Young Miami's cousin and or assistant sexually assaulting Mr. Jones. Actor Cuba Gooding Jr. sexually. Wow. Rapper 3 rejected on Mr. Combs' yacht, consorting with underage girls, sex workers, and R&B singer in Mr. Combs' LA home, consorting with underage girls and sex workers. Man, I ain't gonna lie, it's a lot to unpack, bro. Jesus Christ. So, Chalice Recording Studio shooting on or about September 12th. Mr. Combs held a writers and producers camp at a studio, pretty much. His son was there, he was there, and Justin's friend named G. Now, G is a 30-year-old tall African-American male. In addition to these people, other people were there. This writer has spoken to several musicians who attended the camp. On this evening during the camp, Diddy and his son and G were in a heated conversation. It was moved out of the studio into a restroom, which is already an eyebrow raiser, where Mr. Jones was sitting. Adjacent to where he was sitting, sorry. Mr. Jones was probably 2 feet away from the bathroom when gunshots rang out. Mr. Jones recalls hearing multiple gunshots, right? So, oh, wow. So, boom, the rapper who dated Nicki Minaj. Hold on, but this, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, this doesn't absolve him of being weird if this is true, but this doesn't say that them two did anything, but okay. Back to this. They supposedly shot some dude in the studio pretty much. He went to the state of shock and feared that he would be shot next. I mean, honestly, for me, that's where it starts to get like, I ain't gonna lie, sounding like maybe some of this is maybe sauced up or something like that, simply because, I mean, two people you there with and you work for, if they get into something in the bathroom, I don't know if my next reaction is, oh man, they gonna shoot me next. I haven't done nothing to be shot. I'm not in an argument with them. I might be like, bro, what's, but so I don't know. I don't know. But oh, okay. He thought he'd be shot through the door because of how close he was. When the shooting ended, a crowd gathered around the restroom, right? Wow. When the door opened, Mr. Combs and Jay Combs exited. Dude was lying on the restroom floor in a fetal position, holding his stomach. Somebody tried to save him pretty much. Puffy and his son, they disappeared to another part of the studio. And allegedly, Diddy gave strict instructions to inform the police that he'd had nothing to do with the shooting. He also forced Mr. Jones to lie to the police by telling them that G was shot standing outside of the studio by an assailant, right? Man shot outside party at Hollywood recording studio. Interesting. So I wonder, do they identify Diddy or, wow, okay. So it's funny, you see stories, I guess, like this, and you never know who's involved with it, right? And this is all allegedly, right? But Mr. Jones has several cooperating witnesses who spoke with this writer anonymously due to fear of retaliation for Mr. Combs. They agreed to speak publicly when subpoenaed, right? So they say, if you subpoena me, I'll tell, but that's because you probably got to put me under protection. So I'm probably going to have to blur this out, but this is pretty much the aftermath. This is supposedly photos of that bathroom. Now, let's see. Hollywood recording studio. Officers were called to the 800 block of North Highland Avenue. So I'd like to know what that bathroom looks like, right? So the aftermath of the shooting, they're claiming that obviously he wasn't shot outside the studio, that the security was bad, and the fact that they were able to enter this place with guns when nobody else is, I'm assuming, is, enough for this guy to feel like, hey, he's traumatized. Now he has PTSD, severe anxiety, depression, insomnia, stuff like that. Now, here's where it gets real tricky. He was allegedly harassed and assaulted by Mr. Combs. He said he was the victim of groping and touching of his butt pretty much by Mr. Combs. He said they took place in all three of the locations and the Virgin Islands. My question would be, why do you allow it? But hey, we'll maybe get to that. So he said he was forced to work in his bathroom as he walked around naked and showered in a clear glass enclosure. As a heterosexual Christian man, Mr. Jones was uncomfortable, obviously, and told Christina K, which is KK, she told him, hey, Puff will be Puff, which I don't know if that's a good enough answer. She pretty much tried to downplay it, said, hey, he's that's his way of showing that he likes you, which is still weird, but he said it then gets worse. Like, right, he begins to undress and walk around the house like that. And even her would say, all right, I'm leaving now. He pretty much believes that she aided and abetted the sexual assault of him and was working with Puffy to groom him into accepting this relationship. So yeah, that's already weird. So boom, he was aware that, boom. So this part claims that he attempted to kind of groom him into doing some zesty activity, right? So it says he was aware that he looked up and idolized Stevie J. He's a DJ, producer. He's pretty much started with Puffy and all of that. And he used his access to see Stevie J. And knowing that this guy looks up to Stevie J and pretty much tries to tell him like, hey, look, Stevie J be kind of doing this sneaky, freaky stuff. So if you look up to him, you should do it too. And he went as far as showing a video of Stevie J doing some crazy stuff to a Caucasian male raw. So crazy. So this was done to kind of ease Mr. Jones' anxiety concerning homosexuality. Now, you wouldn't be able to show me no crazy stuff like that, let alone even tell me like, hey, the person you look up to is a freak, man, so you should be one too. Nah, bro. So then he goes on to tell him like, hey, this is normal in the music industry. Stevie J's doing it, and then oh man, Puffy then tells bro that he did stuff with rapper, which we know is Meek, and then R&B singer, which we know is Usher and Stevie J. So I just want this to sink in. I'm not saying whether it's true or false, but now we know from reading the actual paperwork that we have completely accused Meek off of something that somebody else is saying, right? He said that Puffy told him that. So that's all we got. All right, cool. So these are allegedly the photos, which I'm glad you can't really make out. I ain't gonna lie, that looks fake to me, and it's like it almost gives me like the UFO type thing, bro. To where why all the images of UFOs super fuzzy, super low res. We're not in that age no more. Even the worst androids can take better pictures than this. So I ain't gonna lie, it looks kind of fake to me. That's just to me. So now let's go to Thanksgiving. He is assaulted by Young Miami's cousin on Thanksgiving Day. He's at Puffy's house. Why you not back with your family? But Young Miami and her female cousins were also present. Mr. Combs was intoxicated and offered some coke to Mr. Jones. He said nah and proceeded to walk in the bathroom. In the bathroom, Young Miami's cousins, she apparently busts into the bathroom and begins doing crazy stuff to Mr. Jones. He believes that Puffy sent her in there to do it. As she entered the bathroom, she start doing some crazy stuff to him. He pushed her away and exited the bathroom. All right. So first off, what does her cousin look like? And then honestly, this will tell me if I believe anything this guy says from here. I ain't gonna lie. We gonna go through this, but I don't know. Young Miami's cousin did not accept Mr. Jones' rejection as she proceeded to follow him out of the bathroom. She started undressing and attempted to straddle him and do stuff with him in the presence of Mr. Combs and his staff. Once again, he says he pushed her off. The following images are a video of Young Miami, her cousin, Mr. Jones, and Combs. So, that's bro. And you trying to tell me they got girls trying to do stuff to you? I don't know, bro. Okay, cool. So, okay, now this is where the feds probably came in at right here. Throughout Trafficking in Victims Protection Act, throughout his time, he was transported from California to all these different places. During this time, he was forced to solicit workers to perform acts to the pleasure of Mr. Combs. On or about February 4th, Mr. Combs forced Mr. Jones to bring workers back to his home in Miami. These are supposedly the ones that he forced him to bring back to his home. But see, that's crazy, bro. Like, how did he force you to do that? And bro, this isn't a Diddy's innocent like campaign. This isn't I'm not campaigning for Diddy at all. I'm just trying to be fair. I'm trying to use the facts, which is we don't even know if these are facts, but I'm trying to use my common sense as well along with it. And I think a lot of us out there should, because it's crazy, bro. He says he believes that he was drugged. He woke up naked, dizzy, and confused. He was in bed with two workers and Mr. Combs. He said he was wandering around the house with nothing on. So, okay, then too, who's taking these pictures? Is he taking these pictures and like, I'm saving all of these because I'm going to pop him one day? You see what I'm saying? So here's another part. This part has kind of went viral. This is also on Thanksgiving. He asked him and DeForest Taylor to enter the studio bathroom. He asked him for a $100 bill because he wanted them to do that poodle with him. Mr. Jones was scared, but luckily he didn't have a $100 bill, so he waited a little later to do that with Young Miami. Wow, y'all know we frown. Hold on. Let me make my face big for that. Y'all know we frown on playing with your nose in the culture. So, man, that's crazy. Later that evening, he required Mr. Jones to solicit workers from Booby Trap on the River located on Boom, Miami, Florida. He did so, and he forced him to engage in acts with these workers. Now, as a part of Mr. Jones' worker recruitment tools, he provided him with an exclusive Bad Boy baseball cap and required to wear it to booby trap on the river as a signal to any worker that he approached that Mr. Combs was in town, and he sent Mr. Jones to recruit them. He had no desire to go there. He had no desire to do none of this. He used his Puffy used his power and influence to intimidate him into doing all of this stuff. And he used many tactics to maintain dominion and control over Mr. Jones. I ain't gonna lie, it sounds like he would lose this lawsuit, low key. Here are the Instagram profiles of two of the workers that Mr. Combs required him to solicit his home. Okay, this is the alleged number. So here's what I want to know: how he used the tactics, right? So he said he promised him a Grammy for Producer of the Year for the Love album. So can Diddy really pull those strings? Because I would imagine he would have a lot more Grammys. He promised access to record executive. He promised him ownership in his $20 million property, One Star Island in Miami. He would often switch up his approach. He would go from promising stuff to threatening him with physical harm. He threatened to eat his face and informed him that he is willing to hurt his mother if he must in order to get what he wants, so he wouldn't think twice to harm Mr. Jones. Now, it's weird. Why can't I see Diddy saying like some dark stuff like that? For me, you could look at somebody's soul and tell sometimes, but boom, this is probably where the feds just raised their eyebrow too. He had a listening party. He had workers there. Now, we've heard about these Diddy parties before, and we've heard from different people that they're often pretty weird. He forced them to drink Lace de Leon. There were at least 5 people in the crowd that were under the age of 16. He laced their liquor. He didn't check IDs. He says he was forced to drink some too, feeling lightheaded, and recalls passing out and waking up at 4 a.m. on the following morning naked with a sex worker sleeping next to him. This is supposedly Diddy with underage girls and his son with underage girls. So here's where Cuba Gooding Jr. comes in. Mr. Jones believed that Mr. Combs was grooming him to pass him off to his friends. But if Diddy didn't smash, what would make you think like he would pass you off to smash his friends or whatever? I don't know. But it became a reality when he introduced Mr. Jones to Cuba when they were on his yacht. During the introduction, Mr. Combs suggested that Cuban get to know Jones better. Then he left them alone in a makeshift studio on the yacht. Now, here's the weird part. Hold on, was this on a yacht? Okay. Now, here's where I find an inconsistency. I ain't gonna lie. It says here it was a listening party at his home, right? And these are the screenshots from his home. This appears. Oh, no, never mind. So one thing I'm noticing is Diddy must really like that red background light. Either way, it's also awfully crazy that every single time something like this happens, he's got a picture for it. I don't know. But he began touching, doing all type of stuff to him. Apparently, this is Cuba doing this stuff, and I don't know. I don't know why that don't surprise me. And Mr. Jones was extremely uncomfortable, proceeded to lean away from him. He rejected his advances, and Cuba did not stop until he forcibly pushed him away. Here's the alleged encounter. Okay, so who took this picture? Who took this picture, bro? I ain't gonna lie, Cuba is looking kind of strange. I ain't gonna lie, he do look like he got a weird look in his eye. I ain't gonna lie to you, but that's Cuba. So this pretty much talks about how he's suing all those companies because they all pretty much benefited from the Love album, which is when he was in the studio getting all this abuse, I guess. So this actually went viral. This is DeForest, whoever he is. I guess he's one of Puffy's like right hand man or something like that. But anyway, he started Mr. Jones after he publicly requested that I guess Puffy pay him what he was supposed to be paid. He received threatening messages and all kinds of stuff. So as far as the way he would threaten him, he says on one occasion while standing in Mr. Combs' bedroom, he was forced to watch as Puffy showed his guns and bragged about getting away with shooting people. He shared that he was responsible for the shooting in the nightclub in New York with the rapper Shine. He claims that his girl at the time, J-Lo, wow, J-Lo caught up in this crazy stuff, carried a gun into the club for him and passed him the gun after he got into it with another individual, and they were for sure arrested together. So he was terrified of him, and honestly, now I'm starting to get it. I mean, I'm gonna try to, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna go out and never come back the first time I do feel some weird stuff. But I ain't gonna lie, I see how you would be scared of this individual if you really feel like, bro, he could get away with killing me like nothing. Now, here's where Young Miami comes in. It alleges that Young Miami, Jade, and Daphne Joy were paid a monthly fee to work as Mr. Combs' workers and received a payment via wire transfer from Robin Greenhill, which outlined defendant's ongoing criminal operation. So they probably went in to see if like bookkeeping on Diddy's side matches these claims. And right here, she's an actual alleged freak off participant. We learned about the famous freak off from Cassie. In another spot, it says plaintiff and the Combs Rico Enterprise were rehearsing for something in the Westival in Virginia. The court filing reads, Plaintiff Jones personally witnessed Mr. Combs do a few lines of coke in his dressing room. Defendant Sean Combs wanted Tucci, but Brendan forgot it. So defendant Christina Corham called Young Miami, who then brought it on a private jet from Miami. Now, remember earlier in this video, we learned that, and we probably already knew that when you crossing state lines and committing crimes, that makes it federal. So it's interesting to see how this is all going to play out. Let me know if y'all like this video, if y'all like this recap. Rico, I love you. Rico gang, I love y'all. We out. Let's get it.